Hey everyone. So happy January 28th. We are less than 1 month away from Scream 7. So the majority of people who are listening to this podcast right now, we will have seen Scream 7 in less than a month. All of us. That is so wild to me. So I'm just so excited and it's just surreal. So cheers to Scream 7 and cheers to the next month of anticipation. So cheers to the return of Sydney and Nev and Kevin and Courtney. Please enjoy this message from David Arquette sent in by the fabulous Carrie Tenney.
Hey Ryan, how are you? Thanks for doing the Scream podcast.
Like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
I don't know.
You have to have a favorite. What comes to mind?
You are listening to Scream with Ryan C. Showers, the podcast for Scream fans just like you. Join Ryan every week as he takes a deep dive into the horror film series that defined the 90s and redefined the genre. Scream with Ryan C. Showers is your source for scene and quote analysis, character dissections, and the latest news about upcoming installments of the Scary Movie franchise.
I hear you like horror movies, Curly, but do you like them as much as him?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Scream with Ryan C. Showers. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. In the lead up to Scream 7, I couldn't be more grateful for everybody out there who listens to the show, who supports my podcast here, listening every episode, or on social media on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. If you would like to become a member of the podcast, come to the group Zooms, be on the show on a one-on-one or small group setting, consider joining the Patreon with Scream with Ryan C. Showers. In addition to the benefits of coming on the podcast, you can also join our social media groups, in particular on Instagram. That's the main hub of the podcast. I also do a monthly audio commentary of a Scream movie or a Scream-related film. From now through April, we are going to be having a new Scream movie audio commentary. So if you would like to hear my thoughts in an audio commentary form in the style of Wes Craven, Marion Maddalena, et al. Of the original trilogy, please consider subscribing and supporting the show. Thank you to every single person out there who subscribes on Patreon. All right, I need to thank some new Patreons to the group. So everyone, please welcome John Cardy and Brendan Hogg. Thank you, guys. So I need to thank TJ Jones, who does all of the graphic design work for the podcast, and Ashley Summers, who helps me produce the show every week. In addition, I need to thank everybody over at Patreon, including the Stab Investors and Daddy Ghostfaces. The Daddy/Mama Ghostfaces, they include Carrie Tenney, Corey Wilson, Andrew Dominguez, and Brett Janovich. I also need to thank all of my Stab investors. They include Mark Harim, Ali, Tamika Jones, Christian Ranke, David D., Gustavo Mora, Jess Mariano, Joey Nabrini, aka The Vault, John Cardney, Josh Camillari, Josh Carr, Scream Queens podcast, both Josh and Justine, Kevin Abner, Mark Vieira, PWO5, aka Philip Douglas, Roy Garza from the Hoodie Talks podcast, Ryan Not Dying Young, Sam Levy, and Stevie Shears. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Scream with Ryan C. Showers. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Thank you for joining me for this segment of the podcast. I'm sitting here with a new Patreon to the community. So, everyone, please welcome Andrew Dominguez. Hey, Andrew.
Hey Ryan, how's it going?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. Excited to be here.
Well, so Andrew, I have to just, ask right off the bat, like, why Scream? Why do you love Scream so much?
I mean, I'm old, so but I was actually old enough to actually see the first one in theaters when it first came out. I was actually a senior in high school, and during that time period, it was a real lull in horror. There wasn't a lot of horror coming out, and I just remember one night, I think it was probably the first or second week it was out. Going to see it with a good friend of mine, and just being so astounded and how amazing it was. And, back then there wasn't, spoilers, and there wasn't, so we had no idea what was going to happen at the beginning, even though it had been out for a few days.
So, fun fact.
Mhm.
Okay. Of the people who are like kind of involved with the podcast and like the Patreon, it's like 70% people of who I refer to as Gen 1, like people who saw Scream 1,
Right.
2, and 3 in theaters. We have found another Gen 1 person. This is crazy. I love it.
Yeah, I've seen them all in the theater.
How does it feel to be getting this story with Scream 7 where you saw Scream 1 and now she's back? What is it like?
It's feels great. I mean, I think it's been a long time I think when the first one came out, it was around the time, soon after Halloween H2O came out. And I always wondered, I was always wondered at that time, what will it be like, 20 years from now or, however many years from now for them to be able to do the same thing with Sydney, with Nev Campbell, and to be able to finally see it, because I was a little disappointed in five that, she didn't really come out that much, but then she had little kids. So in my mind, I'm already thinking, okay, well, she's not going to have a child old enough yet. But now to see hopefully this come to fruition with this one, it's exciting to know that she's actually going to be that mom character.
You're a fan of Halloween H2O.
I am.
You're speaking my love language.
Yeah.
So it's like I love Halloween H2O. It's literally probably like my favorite non-Scream movie. Like that's
Yeah.
how much I love it.
Yeah. I was actually bummed they didn't continue the new trilogy with her having the son, with Josh Hartnett. So I think it would have worked out even better having continued that time frame.
If you were to ask Nev Campbell or
Mhm.
like people in the industry casually who aren't obsessive with the 90s like we are, okay?
Right.
They, they would probably say Scream 7 is being made in the mold of Halloween 2018. But I feel like if you ask like, people who know, Scream 7 is actually Halloween H2O.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping for.
Let's just go into it. What is your Scream story? What do you love about Scream?
I think I love it because essentially was the movie that kind of brought me back into. I mean, I did see some horror like when I was younger, like Elm Street. I was too little, I was scared. Scream is kind of the one that introduced me to horror and that specific genre. So, during that time we got I Know What You Did Last Summer. We're getting all these other kind of films. So, and I think just the characters themselves, the way that they were kind of built out throughout the series up until even now. I love the characters, the original characters. And I kind of have the same thing as everybody else. Six was a letdown for me. I was bummed as soon as I knew Sydney wasn't coming back. But to now see her coming back, it's finally, the characters, the legacy characters are finally coming back to the forefront.
Let's talk about your ranking of the Scream
Mhm.
films.
So it's one,
Mhm.
2, 4, 3, 5, 6, and I'm hoping 7 will slide further up than those.
So, would you consider yourself a Kevin Williamson boy?
Yeah. When Scream came out, everything Kevin Williamson attached himself to at that time, even Dawson's Creek. I mean, just everything was, yeah, I'm very much a fan of his work.
So, Scream 1, what are your thoughts?
It's just the ultimate. I mean, I know a lot of people recently for some reason are going 2 as their first. I think 2 is an amazing sequel. I mean, especially in that time. I mean, the fact that it came out a year later for it to be that great, but it's just one is just classic. I mean, and I just can't say anything. The Drew Barrymore intro, I mean, you just can't get any better than that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I did a survey in March and
Uh-huh.
I asked the members at that time, what is your favorite Scream film? I have a lot of Scream 3 people, obviously, right? I mean, I'm Scream 3, so Scream 2 won. I was shocked. There you go. I mean,
Yeah.
they were all really close. Like it was all neck and neck. Like they were all
Yeah.
within a couple of points of each other. But the fact that Scream 2 won, I thought that was telling
I mean, it's
too.
great, and it's still, like I said, it's my second favorite, but I just can't see putting it before the first. Just having that experience watching the first, I mean, and then going to see it several times in the movie theater, and it just, yeah, I mean, it's just the classic.
Yeah. What about Scream 2?
Just Scream 2 is just right up there. I mean, they're neck and neck, but one obviously moves ahead all the time. But just 2, like I said, being there, watching it, the fact that it came out a year later, almost to the day, and going to see that one again also the first day. But just the fact that it was exactly what they said it was gonna be: bigger, more kills, better kills, more action, and it just yeah, I mean, I love 2 also.
So I had this prediction because I knew your Scream ranking. I was like, he's gonna pick Jill as his favorite killer because of Scream 4 being ahead of Scream 3. Something's fishy there. I'm wrong.
Yeah, because the funny thing about Scream 4, having seen that one also, obviously the first weekend it came out, it was like after 3 was done, we just didn't know if they were ever gonna do any more. There was such a big gap, between 3 and 4, and sadly, 4 was probably the worst movie-going experience because the theater was so empty. and it just, didn't do well at the box office. There was a lot of critiquing of it, but, going it's so ahead of its time. I mean, it plays so much better now than it did even in, 2011. But yeah, and to me, Jill grew on me too, because seeing it for the first time back in 2011, I thought she was kinda not a great actress, but going back now, I think that she is one of the best killers of the franchise.
Very nice. Well, so
Yeah.
in general, do you have anything else you want to add about Scream 4?
It's really a great film. I mean, it's Wes Craven's last film. The only thing about, a lot of people complain about the coloring of the film, but I know he has said he did that intentionally. I hate that we weren't able to get a 5 and 6, a new trilogy because of the box office, but I think it's a great film. It's a great, I mean, I guess at that point you would call it like I don't know if you'd say a reboot, but basically was it's a great sequel, and I do put it ahead of 3.
Well, so let's talk about it. Scream 3.
Again, being my age and seeing that one also, I think that one initially was a letdown for me. It was so different. I felt Sydney didn't come out very much, but also again, looking back at it, it's a great closure film. Looking back at it, it's just, a lot funnier than I remember it being, when I watched it early on. It is still one of my favorites, but ranking wise, it does for me fall for some reason, after 4.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, it's
Mhm.
totally fair.
Yeah.
I do disagree though about Sydney does have the most screen time in Scream 3 over Gale and Dewey. And
Yeah.
so basically her screen times in the first four films, it's like 44 in Scream 1, 37 minutes in Scream 2,
Mm.
33 in 3, and then 28 in 4. So she actually
Oh,
has
wow, okay.
she actually has more screen time in Scream 3 than she does in Scream 4. And she's actually pretty close in
Yeah,
between 2 and 3. It may not feel like that because all of her scenes are by
right.
herself.
And I guess to me, the first 4, even though you have to put them in order, obviously what you like the most, they're still to me the ultimate, 4 so
Yeah.
far. So it's just, it's the Wes Craven of it all. And 3 has a lot of great, scenes. I mean, just looking back, and to me also, Roman is one of the best killers,
So we're sitting here, Andrew and I are talking on the day that Scott Foley was on Good Morning America, and he talked about Scream 3, and he was asked about Scream 7, and he was asked about like
Mm.
Kevin Williamson coming back, blah blah blah, and he said he had this big like enthusiasm, and that Scream 3 has stood the test of time. Fuck yeah, Scott Foley, it damn right has. So,
It
but
has.
I would have said that to Scream 4 though too. I think that they both have. It's
Yeah.
kind of remarkable.
I would say specifically 3 and 4 have aged tremendously, better than I would say probably 5 and 6 will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so before we talk about 5 and 6, you just said something to the effect of like the first 4 are like the ultimate or the higher echelon. Do you think that 7 will enter that echelon?
I do. I do. Only because I feel 5 I feel like they misstepped a lot by bringing in Sydney and Gail too far late into the project. And I think maybe that was intentional to set something up for 6, but to me, without Sydney in 6, it just feels like, I would compare it to maybe a Halloween without Jamie Lee. Yeah, I do feel like 7 is gonna somehow rank somewhere, in between the original 4 or maybe, with them for sure.
So I have to ask now, before I hear what you have to say about 5 and 6, do you think that maybe they should have gone with, instead of doing the Billy Loomis had a secret child storyline, do you think that they should have just gone to Sydney and her family for Scream 5 and avoided that altogether? Or do you think it's good that we have that storyline exist and now we're coming back to Sydney later on?
That's a good question. I think looking at it right now, I think it was good because obviously we did not get Nev Campbell in 6. So I guess we'll have to see how it goes.
Well, so let's talk about Scream 5. What are your thoughts on 5?
I think initially I was so hyped for it. I mean, I really was. I mean, the fact that after 4, I really didn't think we would ever see any of those characters again. I thought for real was over. I think all the cast kind of said, without Wes, we won't do it. And for it to come back, I think I was just so overly hyped. I remember seeing it in theater, being so excited, but looking back, the fact that, Sydney really didn't come out and Gail didn't really come out until towards the end. And having Gail get shot right before they go in the house and kind of taking her out of that whole scene for a long time. I just obviously looking back now, I think it could have been a lot better.
Well, so what did you think of the main storyline with the Carpenters?
I liked it initially. I think then I really liked it when I
Mhm.
saw it. But because of 6 and how it focused just on them, I wish somehow the legacy characters were integrated more in the story in 5, than they were. I mean, I think Dewey did, great. David Arquette, I think they set his story up line really great in 5, but I think not really bringing Sydney and Gale in until late. I wish there would have been more of the story.
Yeah. So here's a good question. Dewey, should he have died or should he have been kept alive?
The only reason I say it was okay for right now for me to say it's okay he died because I think he was such a focal point in 5 that it gave him a good, storyline for his death. And then because again, it wasn't in 6, I think had Dewey lived, I would have maybe hoped there would have been more Dewey Gale centric in 6, but I think they would have not done that, which would have
Yeah.
made it kind of not worth it.
Well, so you've kind of alluded to 6 several times.
Yeah.
Here we go. What are your thoughts on Scream 6?
First of all, I was already mad at the fact that, what they did to Nev behind the scenes. A lot of people were already going to boycott it. I didn't. I went into it with kind of open eyes, thinking that they are going to, knowing that they do bring that back these characters again. There's been several, Halloweens where, Jamie wasn't in there, thinking that, okay, maybe they're going to set it up for her to come back. Initially seeing it at the theater, I enjoyed it, but watching it over and over again, I think you made the comment where it does seem like it's more of like, it's not really a story. It's just multiple like action shots. Like it's, they're here in the subway, they're, in the park, they're in the apartment. It's like nothing really connects or is very cohesive. And I do agree with that.
As it pertains to Gale Weathers, one thing I heard you say, you seem very protective of the legacy characters. Does that factor into I heard you talk about Neb. What are your thoughts on Gale in Scream 6?
Again, I mean, I loved her. I mean, I think the scenes that she was in were great. I do feel she was underutilized, especially kind of, once she was hurt, in her, sky rise or her loft or wherever she was living, she was kind of out of the whole story, even until the very end. So, but I did enjoy that scene of her in the apartment. I will say that I did not want her to die. But I think, again, I think she could have been utilized a lot more. I think she could have been more of the focal point.
Imagine, yeah, she absolutely should have been. I mean, like, it should
Right.
have been like Sam is the main character and Gale is the second main character.
Right.
That's how it
Right.
should have been. Imagine being someone who watches Scream 6 and says, Gale Weathers should have died. I mean, like, it's just kind of crazy to be like, it just, for me, it's the lack of closure with Gale in Scream 6. I mean, there's so many
Yeah.
things. There's the character assassination, regressing her with the book, and not giving her the screen time to make it make sense. It's not allowing us to see her uncover the shrine. It's not even that. What for me, it's the worst thing is the fact that we don't get to see her survive. We don't an ending for her. Her ending is she is dying on the floor of her apartment. That is such a slap in the face.
It is.
And it's just been like, between that and Sam wearing the robe and the killers, Scream 6 is really tough for me.
Yeah, it is for me too. And just I think, and the fact that even Gail's development without even mentioning like, they mentioned about her writing the book, I guess, but they don't really mention like her process of, maybe grieving Dewey or any mention of him. So it just kind of left that kind of empty. And then, like you said, there's just no closure, not her coming back at all or not even a hospital. I mean, just nothing. It was just kind of like, okay, well, she lived and, Gail will be fine.
It's just like, I got the sense the way that they treated her, that they were basically saying, we don't care that much about her. And that in a movie where you've already, written Nev Campbell out of the film, and you've killed off Dewey. If I would have been in their shoes, I would have thought to myself, we need to be so protective of how we handle Gale. That was not their priority. And it is what it is.
Yeah, because at that point she's your legacy character and you're not treating her like one.
What are your thoughts on Kirby in general?
I liked her. I wanted more for her, because I feel like they set her up for a big comeback, especially, with the YouTube video from 5. I think she kind of like, they kind of knocked her out in that final, piece. And then she kind of never did, also come back. So it's kind of like, and again, she's not coming out in 7, it looks like. So it just kind of makes me wonder what will happen with her. Will they, spin her off? Will they bring her back? I heard the one pod you did about making her, star of a show, which I think would be a good idea.
I say do both. I say bring her
Mhm.
back in Scream 8 and then have the Paramount Plus show at the same time. You could have like,
Yeah, I'm surprised she's not coming out in 7.
I am too.
Right.
I bet she'll be an 8. Andrew, let's hit my speedrun questions. Sydney, Gale, or Ty?
Ty.
I guess I need to respect people who are decisive, but when people don't say Ty, it hurts my feelings. So if someone says Gale, I hurt as a Sydney person. And when someone says Sydney, I hurt as a Gale person. So it's just like Ty is the correct answer.
Yeah, I think since Scream 2, when they, both of them with the guns together, yeah, I think from there, they're just a dynamic duo.
Exactly.
Uh,
So, Sam or Tara?
Tara,
Okay,
I
interesting. Why?
think she's funny, spunky. I just enjoyed her character more.
Dewey or Chad?
Oh, Dewey.
Yeah, see, so it's so not fair.
Yeah,
I think almost like 99% of people have picked Dewey here.
yeah,
It's just this was an unfair question.
yeah.
We'll be fine. Favorite movie buff across the franchise?
I know. Randy,
Favorite killer?
I want to say Roman.
Oh my god! Wow,
Yeah.
I was waiting for a tie for Billions too. Wow.
No, it's been Roman right now. It's, maybe it's the Scott Foley of the day today, or yeah, it's Roman.
My god, Dave Aid.
Uh-huh.
I'm blushing. Favorite opening and favorite finale?
Opening Drew Barrymore. Finale, what's funny is I am gonna say 3 with Roman. Something about that, being behind the hidden door, them thinking Sydney got killed. Yeah, I'm gonna say Roman.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have a new favorite Patreon. So everyone else, I'm declining your applications. Favorite scene in any of the movies?
Favorite scene, and I know a lot of people have said this before, but this was mine even in the theater. Scream 2, the sound booth, just the intensity, I will say, oh, you know what? I'm gonna change it. I will say the car scene and intensity, not knowing what was gonna happen if he was gonna wake up. I'm gonna say the car scene.
Those two. So I would
Yeah.
say I wish I would have kept data on this. All of the people who have answered, those are the top two.
Yeah.
Everyone says Gale and Scream 2 in the sound booth, but the cop car is always like the second one.
Yeah, it's the suspense of it. Just yeah, I can feel myself in the theater and everybody just yeah,
It's Wes Craven.
yeah.
So, okay. Favorite kill or death?
For some reason, the one that always sticks in my mind is because it was such a shock seeing it the first time was Tatum.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow, nice.
the garage door.
Who is your favorite supporting character across any film?
Supporting would be anybody besides like the legacy or
I would say anyone who isn't the trio or the Carpenters.
okay. I'd probably say what comes to my top of my head would is Kirby for some reason.
So, what is your favorite thing about Scream?
I think what lately I think it has been just the fan base, just essentially the how it's grown with all these years, how new people have got into the films. I have teenagers and they love it, so yeah, I think it's the fan base, for sure.
Well, that's very sweet, and I have to
Uh,
say thank you for becoming a part of like my little corner of the fan base. So,
oh yes, I love it. It's a great community.
thank you, Andrew. Anything else you want to share about anything Scream before we see Scream 7?
No, I'm excited. I can't wait to see it. I always get nervous because just, I don't know, just natural, because you don't know what's going to happen. But I'm excited. I think I'm more excited for this than I was even before 5 came out.
Yeah. I feel like this time we know, like with Scream 5, it was very pure
Right.
excitement. Like, and this time it's like, no, we know what we're getting.
Right, exactly.
I think that there's a different element of like awareness and appreciation for what's in store, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And we're finally going to see her as the mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As Carrie Tate in Halloween H2O. Andrew, please tell everybody where they can find you online.
Drew, DMNGZ on Instagram. And that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this segment of Scream with Ryan C. Showers. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Thank you for joining me. I'm sitting here with one of my friends who's been a Patreon for quite a while now. He's been on the show before, but we had this really awesome idea to give Kevin Williamson and his career a proper shout out tribute as we lead up to his directing of Scream 7. It's kind of important to talk about Kevin's achievements here as a writer and a producer before a director. Well, I guess he's kind of a director already with teaching Mrs. Stingle, but everybody, please welcome my friend Wani. Hey, Wani.
Hey, how is everybody? It's just you.
It's just me. It's just me. Scream with Ryan and the world. The world is good. So Wani, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and the types of music that you do?
Yeah, so I'm a singer-songwriter. I mostly do pop music, so I'm mostly inspired by 90s music and 2000s. And I also a DJ. It started as a side gig, but now it's pretty much my main gig. So I'm a musical guy, so it was fun to come here and talk about a little bit about the songs in Scream, which I think they're awesome, especially on the first 3 movies. It was fun. Yeah, so you can find me on Spotify. My name is Juani. My last name Cardillo, Wardilo. You can find me on YouTube. I do a lot of music videos, so it will be great if you can join in and follow me. And yeah, that's mainly. And on Instagram, it's at Juani Garbicho. It's not really that hard. It's all the same.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, everybody, please go follow Wani and subscribe to his YouTube channel for sure. He's sent me some of his music in the past and I try to share it. So everybody, please go check it out. So Wani, you've been a Patreon for a little bit now with the podcast, but it's been a while since you've done the Scream Story and Speed Round. So I would really like to hit the Speed Round, of course, but do you have anything you'd like to just share about who you are as a Scream fan and like what your ranking is, just to refresh everybody?
Yes, and one thing. So my ranking used to be 2, 1, 3, 5, 6, 4. But because I realized that my ranking is very personal and it's not about which one is the best movie. I don't think that you can be technical about it, but the way that I changed my ranking now is which which are the ones that I enjoy rewatch the most.
Yeah.
And I was kind of putting 2 or 3 above 1, but this is my new ranking. So I have 2, 3, 1, 5, 4, 6.
All right, so the changes were that Scream 3 moved above Scream 1 and that Scream 4 moved above Scream 6. We love the two underrated sequels, like having their revenge.
Yeah, especially, you know what? 2 and 3 are the ones that I enjoy rewatching the most alone. But it's one that I revisit when I want to show someone what Scream is. So I enjoy the gathering of people watching the first one. But it doesn't hit the same if I watch it alone. So 2 and 3 is like my comfort Scream movies. I know that I'm going to have a good time no matter what.
Scream to me, like how I define Scream, like a lot of people, because so many people put Scream 1 at number 1 in their ranking, I almost feel as though there is like, I mean, I get it on some level, but at the same time, I don't, because it's like, for me, like 1 is like, people consider it such a classic, but for me, I really see the original trilogy as like one big movie in a way. Like part 1, part 2, part 3 is all like a big 6-hour movie. And for me, where Scream really becomes Scream, and the Scream that I love, the Scream that I'm passionate about, is as it develops with 2 and 3, as the story, like when you're cooking, let's just say pasta, for instance, and like it sits in the sauce, for an hour, 2 hours, and it absorbs all of that texture and tasty goodness. Like that's how I see Scream 2 and 3, with the characters and Wes Craven sitting in the formula, right? Sitting in the richness of what it's building over the film. So like, Gale and Dewey specifically, like the way that they really grow to be main characters and the way that Sydney evolves and grows, like, and just Wes Craven's style and imprint, like 2 and 3, whenever people say like 2 and 3 are their favorite, like, you're my people. I get you. We understand it the same way.
Yeah. Especially people that, that began the podcast is what was it? What's your Scream story? And I'm like, more for me, what is your Scream 2 story? Because that's for me when I solidified my fandom for Scream. I told it the first time, but it was like I found out about Scream, and then I went to the movie store to rent it again. I got it on TV, and I wanted to see it from start to finish. And then I realized, and I saw on the VHS that Neve Campbell was on it. I follow up to the first one because mostly, I remember the podcast that you did with the horror franchise, the Friday the 13th, Halloween, Nightmare. Like we were not used to like see a continuation from the main characters, and I was like, okay, this is different. And then I love watching Scream 2 because it's like, okay, so this is people that I already know. Like just to put it in context, like these are like my friends. Let's just say that. Like I was 12. So that's how it felt at that time. And when I went to the movie theater to see Scream 3, which that was my first Scream watching in theater, it was like, oh, again, my friends. I feel like comfortable with these people, like carrying on the franchise. So for me, 2 and 3 are like Scream to me. You can say, so Scream, it's almost perfect. I watched it recently and it's like, I was watching, I don't watch it as much as other people on the Patreon group. But I watched it like I took a while to see it again, and it was like such a great movie. Like realizing again. But for me, 2 and I think it's in a technical level, like it's almost perfect. But 2 or 3 are more like familiar.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Well, and like because the story and the characters are growing and like evolving, and like we're becoming so familiar with them. So like the way that I like to think about it is like the Gale and Dewey of Scream 2 and Sydney of Scream 2, like just think about them in that movie and then think about them in the middle of Scream 3 when they all reunite. Like by the time that they all reunite in the police station, it's like the people we have grown with from 1 to 2 and then 2 to 3. It just feels like, wow, like we're living in these people's world. Like they are so lived in, and I think that that's really impressive. And I think part of the hook too is also the Maureen Prescott aspect. There's just something so like delicious and tasty about the original trilogy. It just feels so detailed. Like it's like a world that you're living in. And I think, maybe that's nostalgia, but I think that's Wes Craven's magic. So I don't know.
Yes. And I'm hoping that Kane Williamson will bring a little bit of that on this new installment. So that's what I was excited for him to be back, not only as a producer, but like being charged.
Our main topic today that you suggested, which I'm actually really happy you did. I had this idea. I wanted to do this episode around the time of Scream 7. So the release, so I was like, perfect, So Kevin Williamson, it's fun that you say that Scream 2 and 3 are how you define Scream because, he famously did not write Scream 3. So, I guess like as somebody who you said, hey, Ryan, let's talk about Kevin Williamson's career. How do you reconcile that? Because there are, historically people, one of the biggest target on Scream 3's back as it pertains to like the criticism, the unfair criticism, in my opinion, was just the mere fact that Kevin Williamson didn't write it. And I always struggled with that. So I'm just curious, as somebody who lived through that, who loves Kevin and who, ranks Scream 3 in second place, what are your thoughts?
So when I saw Scream 3, I loved it. It was my favorite my favorite Scream movie for a long time until we got everything again. So you have to think about this going back. I sound like I'm like 100 years old, but you gotta think about. So it was 2000. I was 13 years old. I was like maybe going to the internet, to the forums. So that noise that you heard after, you didn't hear that back then. At least I didn't get that. So I went in to see Scream 3 without knowing that all the backlash from the studio, from Columbines, about the switch of the writer. I went in without knowing that the whole original idea for Scream 3. I think that I'm really lucky that I went in without knowing all of that, because I think that many people are influenced by all the noise that came later and they're not able to see the Scream 3 for what it was. It was someone making a movie trying to make sense of everything. And for me personally, I know that I'm going to enrage many Scream fans. I love the story. I love that, even though that it wasn't the original concept from Kevin, I think it makes sense. Of course, there are always like logical problems, but having in mind everything, all type of movies that you have that doesn't make sense, I think that it made perfect sense. And I didn't care about the original idea that they had about, that Stu being alive and being the leader of this following of people. I love what sometimes things happen for a reason. And if that whole thing didn't happen, we wouldn't have had this personal story about Sydney and her past. So I'm glad that I got to see without knowing all of that. Like many years later, I was like, why people don't like Scream 3? Like this was before I knew you. So I was rooting for Scream 3 before you did, but I didn't get it. And Kane Williamson, I know that at the beginning, he didn't like it and he didn't want to watch it, but I'm glad that he came around to it and appreciated it. And I guess he's continuing the story because he's bringing back Scott Foley and other characters from that time.
Well, so let me tell you, the one is like, this is good, right? This is gonna be good. Let me tell you, like back when they were starting to film Scream 7, I don't know if you guys remember this, but I'm gonna remind you because it's important. So there were some toxic people on YouTube who were spreading this rumor, right? Because they have all this inside knowledge, right? That one of the things that was being spread was that Kevin, whenever he was editing the script, that he did, right? Or he demanded that any reference to Scream 3 be omitted and removed and replaced with something else. And I thought that was odd. One, Kevin Williamson's he's like a 60-year-old man. I don't think he is that petty, first of all, or that sensitive about something that happened 25 years ago. But also, there's that. Also, it just doesn't really make sense. And then, like a couple of weeks later, it was announced that Scott Foley was going to be in Scream 7. And this was before Lillard was announced, before David Arquette was announced. So it was almost like, the best way to kind of combat a bad rumor. It's just like, really, he's trying to erase Scream 3 from his Scream 7. So with Scott Foley, right? I was really happy that was the first person who was announced. Because let's just say Matthew Lillard was announced first, and Scott Foley would have followed up. I think the fact that it was Scott Foley, it was extra exciting because it was extra surprising and shocking that, the one movie that Kevin Williamson Williamson, has emotional beef with because he didn't get to write it because the Weinsteins weren't on the same schedule as he was back then. That's how we found out that all these returning characters were going to be back, and that Scott Foley specifically. So I think that's really good, and I was really proud of Kevin for being humble enough to allow Scott Foley to be part of it.
He actually left us breadcrumbs of he being okay with Scream 3 because on Scream 5 in 2022 we can see on the TV screen that there's a Dawson's Creek episode and we have Scott Foley on it. So I think that he was already okay with that. So I never believed that maybe he was feeling some type of way back in the 2000s, but I mean, there many things in the world happened after that. I don't think that he's like, give me back my original script free. I don't think that he's like that, like sitting at home like this. So no, I think he's over that.
It's interesting because, I think Kevin Williamson not being involved in Scream 3 wasn't a deal breaker, obviously. And the fact that, he was involved on Scream 4 for a little bit, but then he wasn't. I think that we're going to see a similar pulling back and forth with Scream 7. It's like making a great Scream movie without Wes Craven, right? You still have Nev Campbell and Kevin Williamson. So this is like the test for them to be to show that those movies that we made back then can still be made now in the same kind of way, if that makes sense. It will be different. Scream 7 is obviously going to be different than a Wes Craven film based on the mere fact that it's, Kevin Williamson hasn't directed so much. But I think that they're going to try to do as much as they can to recreate that spirit and be different from what Radio Silence did. And I'm not knocking Radio Silence. I think they did a really great job with Scream 5. But I think that Kevin is just going to come into his own, and he's like the perfect person, the perfect vehicle to kind of give us a Sydney story again.
Yes, and going back to Radio Silence, I'm happy that we have those movies. They needed to happen for a reason. Scream 6 is in the bottom of my ranking, but I still enjoy that movie. And I came around to it okay, this is like if Scream was done by Marvel, I don't know, like an action movie. And that's fine. We have to appreciate that what we have. I think for us as Scream fans, we have the bar so high. So we're kind of screwed because we have the bar so high. So that's the bar that we judge everything else in horror. So I remember going back to the conversation that you were having with the episode with the Friday the 13th, Halloween and Brian Hilliard franchises. And I realized that it was nice to have them to have a little bit of perspective when they told you that everything back then didn't have the deepness that Kim Williamson brought to the original trilogy. So we're so lucky that we have that. But at the same time, it's we are kind of we have the bar so high that it's difficult sometimes to enjoy other type of things.
Well, and that's the thing about Scream 6. I wonder, I don't know. Because I have, in some ways, I do appreciate Scream 6. I wouldn't do it over to never have Scream 6 and 5, but I'm just happy that where everything has ended up because, for me, I built this podcast and nurtured it through Scream 5 and 6. And Scream 5 and 6, I think Scream 5 is a really great movie. I think Scream 6 is not. But at the same time, you said something earlier about not knowing what you need in the moment, right? And not recognizing something when we were talking about Scream 3 about that original concept and being sometimes things happen for a reason. Maybe we needed to get Scream 6 to deserve something like this with Scream 7, where it's so special with Nev Campbell and Kevin Williamson making it. I don't know. It's to be determined, but I think that Scream 6, I'm actually, I hate to say this, but I'm happy that Scream 6 exists because it keeps people's expectations for 7 low, so that when people see Scream 7, they're gonna be like, oh my God, this is what an actual Scream movie feels like. So
yeah, but I'm gonna say something good about Scream 6 before we go to the King Williamson topic. After seeing the new I Know What You Did Last Summer, made me appreciate Scream 5 and 6. Brawlers. It's the killer reveal, Freddie Prinze Jr., and I hated it because it didn't make sense at all. And at least if in Scream 5 and 6, if Scream 7 was going to the route of Samantha being the killer, even though I wouldn't have liked that idea, I hate the idea of a hero going being a ghost face.
Yeah.
It would have made sense with what they were trying to tell. So it was I appreciate that.
Well, and I will say for me, I love Gail Weathers' big scene in Scream 6. I know that's like the stupidest Ryan C. Showers answer ever, but like it's true. I genuinely think it's a great scene. I think that Courtney's amazing. I think the staging, the blocking, the action is so sharp and cool. So yeah, I really love that. Okay, let's talk Kevin. He is kind of the reason for the season in a lot of ways. And like he wrote the original Scream. He wrote Scream 2. He wrote Scream 4. He was executive producer on 3, 5, and 6. His writing credits also include The Faculty. An uncredited movie is Halloween H2O, but that's definitely a Kevin Williamson. I know what you did last summer. Cursed with Wes Craven, the movie that just came out recently called Sick, which I really love. And in addition, he also is the creator of Dawson's Creek, which is a huge show, and he was the showrunner for 2 years, and The Vampire Diaries.
So what's your King Williamson story? That will be my my way to start.
Yes, let's do that. What is your Kevin Williamson story?
Right. So I found out a screen was written by King Williamson. There was something about the first screen. It was like, why do I like this so much? Why this is so different from everything else I mean, I was 11, 12, but why was so different from other horror movies or the idea that I have for a horror movie? And it was like, that's when I started to be aware of the idea of a director, a script writer. Like in a moment of my life, I wanted to be a screenwriter because of King Williamson. And I was reading articles online whenever I could get internet. And I was like, okay, so this makes sense that there's a writer who wrote a script, and that makes it different. I was feeling something different about the dialogues. By the time 1999, I started to watch Dawson's Creek on cable, and a couple episodes in, I started to pay attention to the opening credits, and it says created by King Williamson. And I was like, this name sounds familiar to me. And then one thing about Dawson's Creek was, so I was 12, 13 when I was watching it. And I was like, it's weird. Like I was identifying with the characters, but the way they were speaking didn't make sense for 14, 15 years old. They were like 15 years old talking with 30 something dialogue. But then I connect. It was like, oh my God, again, the script, the creation. And it was like, that made me want to see everything that he did. So then I started watching last summer, The Faculty. Every project that he does, it feels special.
Well, I think that you hit the nail on the head, which is like this way of speaking that is Kevin Williamson. The signature thing about him as a creative is the meta, right? But also the way that the characters talk about art, media, other movies, other TV shows, pop culture. I don't want to say that he completely invented that, but he was definitely a pioneer of that. And he had that in addition to like this very like smarty pants, like you said, a 30-year-old adults talking
Yeah.
way of speaking for the teenagers. And that to me is like what I think of when I think of Kevin Williamson dialogue. For me, if you look at these movies from the 90s, which are Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Scream 2, The Faculty, Teaching Mrs. Tingle, and let's just throw in Dawson's Creek, and then you add in Scream 4. Like to me, all the dialogue kind of sounds the same. It sounds like you can tell that these are Kevin Williamson characters, and I guess H2O as well. So, the dialogue and the approach to pop culture are the two things that like really define who Kevin Williamson is as a writer. And it's just like when you see it, you can spot it. It's like, for Kevin Williamson, like for instance, like Scream 4, the opening with Lucy Hale and Shanae Grimes, the very first Stab 6. That's like the quintessential Kevin Williamson moment, scene, dialogue. The Scream 2 classroom scene with Randy and Mickey and Cece. Again, it feels the same. Like that in the fountain scene could fit in right there too. The kids in Halloween H2O talking, walking into class. All of this feels like Kevin Williamson wrote it.
Even in Dawson's Creek on the first few seasons, like, well, if people don't know, so Dawson's the main character wants to be a director. So there's a lot of references about movies, and you can see the love of movies from King Williamson, the nostalgia. And I don't know how far along on Dawson's Creek.
Season 3.
Okay, so there's something that he didn't actually intend it at the beginning that happens in the middle, and he embraces that idea. So it's again with Scream 3, like he accept that somebody else took his word and make it something different. He's not really complaining. He's like, sometimes you have to step back and have someone else. It happens with me creating music. Sometimes you need another perspective to make something different, something better. So I appreciate that about him. And I want to highlight one show from King Williamson that is not talked about, that maybe it's only one season. It's called Wasteland. So
Okay.
Rebecca Gayheart is on it, and one of the characters from Dawson's Creek from season 4. You're not there yet. She's also going there.
The thing about like Kevin Williamson's characters, right? They're, most of the characters that he's written, or at least that he wrote in the late 90s in the Scream era, were teenagers or college age kids. And, they had this very high intellect, extra clever personality and extra like all knowing, like so self aware, and with like an impressive vocabulary. It's just very peculiar, very distinctive. I think it was kind of adopted by like Buffy in some sense. I think like even though Buffy the Vampire Slayer wasn't a Kevin Williamson show, you can definitely feel the impact of Kevin Williamson's Scream and like just the culture around Buffy, right? Despite being a writer of all these great movies from the 90s, it's actually kind of overwhelming how many of the movies that I love can be traced back to Kevin Williamson outside of Scream, right? You have I Know What You Did Last Summer, H2O, two of my favorites. I really like The Faculty, so that's very fun. But he only directed Teaching Mrs. Tingle. So I kind of want to ask you, what are your thoughts Teaching Mrs. Tingle?
I liked it. And I liked that it was something different. Like there are many of the movies that Kevin wrote. They're like very screen structured, and Teaching Mrs. Tingle is the only one that it's so different from everything else.
Yeah.
I understand that there was such a high standard because it was him, because you have Katie Holmes, because you have all the hype of he being the golden scriptwriter at that moment. But I think it was a good movie. And you have fucking Helen Mirror. I mean, it's like, I mean, I think it's a good movie. I think it's something to revisit. And I understand that they had to tone it down, but I think it's a good movie.
I think it's good as well. I think it's underrated. I think it was tripping over itself with being censored in some senses. It's a better effort for Kevin as a director first time out the gate than people give him credit for. I actually think it's well suited to a debut for a director in terms of like it's all set in one location. It's very dialogue actor based. So I think that like all of that works to his advantage. And he's doing his own script. So I think that's very cool too. And I think it's so cool that he does get to work with Helen Mirren of all people, right? One of the greatest actresses of all time. And so there's a lot there. And like there are interesting themes. There's, Katie Holmes gets a good character arc out of this. There is something to Teaching Mrs. Tingle. I think that like if there would have been a version of the movie where he was unbound from the studio and unbound from the time of, in place of 1999, I think that it could have been even better. And I will say this though, I guess back then there was an option like Teaching Mrs. Tingle or The Faculty, like which one. He was going to direct one of them, and he chose Teaching Mrs. Tingle, which I think is an interesting choice. I'm glad that it happened that way. Him directing The Faculty the first time out would have been tough, just because you're dealing with special effects, you're dealing with action, you're dealing with an ensemble as opposed to just like a trio of characters. I don't know. So, what do you think of that choice by Kevin to direct Tingle over The Faculty?
I think it was an emotional choice for him also because that was the first script that he actually shop around before Scream. He actually wrote that before. So I think for him, I mean, I'm just assuming, but for him, it was like, okay, I want to make this movie. This is my baby. I mean, Scream, it's the one that brought him all this fame, but I think for him, it was very special for him to do that. Maybe he thought he was the only one who was able to do it. So I think it was a smart choice.
I really like The Faculty, though. I think that his screenplay is really strong. Again, I think he really got high school kids at the time. He got their sense of humor. He got the intellect. And I think that the cool thing about The Faculty that's different from Scream is about Sydney, and Scream 2 is about Sydney and Gail. And I Know What You Did Last Summer is about the four of them, but it's still about Julie, right? The Faculty, it's an ensemble. There is no like, I guess you could say Elijah Wood is the kind of like the protagonist, but like I would argue that it's a six-some movie or a seven-some, and that's different. And I think that was kind of like, it was fun to see Kevin writing so many different characters that obviously so many actors wanted to be a part of it and took on, actors that we recognize today even, right? Took on those roles. And I really like The Faculty. Some say that it hasn't aged particularly well. I think that that's mostly due to like the special effects. I think the movie has a lot of personality, and who gave it that personality? Kevin Williamson.
Well, yes, I didn't mind the special effects. It's very Buffy like, but I think on the side that it didn't age well, it's that they are too mean. That the characters are too mean, like with the Gen Z culture. I don't think that actually could go that well. But for me, it makes sense for the time being. Kids were more.
They were mean, but I think, there's definitely a toughness to these characters as opposed to the characters that we see in today's world. But so I want to talk about I Know What You Did Last Summer because that script is brilliant, and I actually think like he takes the source material. I think it's actually a really good exercise for him as a writer and shows how good of a writer Kevin is because he takes the source material, he keeps the spirit of it in some respects, but makes it darker, makes his own choices with it, pushes the characters a bit more, sets up four different people, four interesting people, and makes it very modern and slashery. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Have you read the novel?
I read a long time ago. So
Okay. So the script is so good, and what I have read about the novel doesn't make me want to read the novel. Like it's so good. The whole the whole backstory, like it could have been. So what I like, I know what you did last summer, that it's different from Scream. It's very like straightforward. Like there's not such deepness like the Scream has. He could have just like make a killer and like make it so simple.
yeah.
Whole backstory, the whole Julie James finding out that they didn't actually kill anyone, and playing along with the morals of the story, because for the whole time of the movie you're thinking that you're rooting for killers, kids that kill somebody, and then but you kind of don't want them to that, but then you realize that they didn't do anything, and the people that ran over, he did something worse. So spoiler alert.
Well, but the thing about what you just said is like he pushed the characters morally. He pushes the audience morally, and that's why I Know What You Did Last Summer so good, and why this new prequel wasn't so successful for a lot of people is because they didn't do anything necessarily that bad, versus what in the original film they really did something morally objectionable, and that's part of the motivation. That's part of what makes it scary. Kevin recognized that, and he baked that into his script, and I think that's so smart of him.
I haven't watched it again because I'm still kind of mad on that movie. You know what? I'm not the type of guy that says like this is good, this is bad. I think that there's redeemable qualities about everything. But that was the first time that was like, okay, this is not good at all. Like I was, and it made me upset because it could have there were good things. It could have been great if they had worked a little bit more on the script, but they were, I don't know, I think that they were influenced by what the time period that we're living in, the TikTok era, the Gen Z era, that they didn't go to the core of the script. You can tell that story again now and it will work today, I think.
Yeah. Well, so interesting enough, Kevin Williamson, when he wrote Scream, there's a lot of behind the scenes footage of him talking about how Halloween is one of his favorite movies. And because of Scream, it led to Jamie Lee Curtis wanting to do Halloween H2O. Then forward, he was involved in Halloween H2O and wrote the majority of the script. And he's not credited, but there's a lot of Kevin Williamson in Halloween H2O. For me, I feel like it's like such a beautiful version of Kevin Williamson as a writer. I think that like he gives Laurie Strode in a beautiful arc, and he gives her it's fun that way, that the way that Laurie Strode is almost screamified. He gives her the Sidney Prescott treatment in a lot of respects. So what are your thoughts on Kevin's contributions to Halloween H2O?
I really loved it at the beginning. It was at the time that I watched it on 1998. 1998.
Mhm.
So it was at the time that I was trying to find everything Scream related, everything Kevin's related. But I really like Laurie Strode's story. I really like the development of the character. I like the main teenagers. They feel very Dawson's Creek. There's actually one from Dawson's Creek. So I enjoy the way that Kevin Williamson writes young, and I think that was missing from Scream 5 and 6.
We've been talking a little bit about these characters, like you were talking about I Know What You Did Last Summer, and how it could be applied to today's world. Kevin Williamson hasn't really written a whole lot of feature films basically since this time period in the 90s, because he did, of course, Dawson's Creek, and then he did The Vampire Diaries, which I have not seen. I've seen a little bit of Dawson's Creek. I've at least seen the seasons where he was the showrunner. I have not seen anything of The Vampire Diaries, but so he did write a movie called Sick, which is like a Scream COVID mystery movie. And I really like Sick. I think that it's really well directed. The characters and the dialogue are very Kevin, but that's not the sole reason I like it. The reason I like it is because more so of the production and the directing and the action of it all. But it just reminded me, oh, Kevin, he's still got it.
Yes, it was like it was a long time since we had something written by him, and I was like, this is amazing, and it doesn't. The pace is amazing, and it's I know that many people complain about Scream 6 that not many main characters die, but it's you can show that there is no need for people to die in a movie to be scary, to be suspenseful, to be thrilling, to have tension.
The reason why it doesn't work in Scream 6 is because we have so many survivors and they are all given basically death scenes. They're all stabbed to the heavens and back, and yet they just still magically survive. That's the difference, I think, versus Sick. I think it works better.
Yeah, it works better. I want to see what happens in 10 years when people go back and see that, because maybe it felt too soon because we were still in COVID period time. But I don't know. I think he took this subject and made it a horror movie and made it and I guess there's a reason why he doesn't write that much, is because he wants to do something that it's meaningful, that it will that will surpass the test of time. I think that speaks to him. Like he doesn't just want to write something just to write something. He just want to do something meaningful. And also that's what I think, that he went back also to his original idea for Scream 3 and made it to the following. That's such a great show as well. At least I really like the first 2 seasons.
And again, that's another Kevin Williamson show that I have not seen, but that's starring Kevin Bacon, which I think is very cool. And I'm happy that he repurposed that original idea from Scream 3. But yeah, so you mentioned the following. Okay, I have to ask, The Vampire Diaries. Do you know much about The Vampire Diaries? Have you seen it? What are your thoughts on it?
I know a little bit. You know what? That's the one that it came at the time that vampires were hot again, and I was like, it was too much. And I wasn't into it. So
I just want to give it a little salute just because it was such a big part of his career. So Dawson's Creek, were you a big fan at the time that it came out?
yes, very. Back on that time, I was watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Dawson's Creek, Ex and the City. The 3 of them were ended the same year, and it coincided that when it finished, it was my last year in high school.
Oh, wow.
So they're pretty much my high school experience, if it made sense. But yes, I was such a big fan. Yes, it was part of my identity for a long time. It was the first time for me to see a LGBT character that I could relate to, even though that it was very tame, very middle of the road. But that's what they were able to do at the time. And I really appreciate that he took a risk, because I remember listening to an interview by Kevin Williamson that, many people asked him about Scream, that if Billy and Stu were secretly an item. And he said that he wasn't able, he thought about it, but he wasn't able to do that at that time. He wouldn't have been able to sell the script if he made that decision. Dawson's Creek is what we could get at the time about LGBT representation. And I think it's not talk about a lot that we have a franchise that it was created by gay men. I think it's huge. And that's something that I didn't realize at the time. And that's maybe another reason why I connected that much with Kevin.
Well, and I think that for me, Kevin being gay man is something that it's almost like the secret sauce. That's like, this is why the female characters are so good. This is why the mystery is so good. This is why the characters that they speak so funny and so cleverly. And I just think it's interesting. And I'm so excited to see what he does as a director in this modern era with Courtney Cox and Neve Campbell, who have been playing these roles forever. I just think that it's going to be something so special for the connection of them knowing their characters so well, and Kevin as a gay man, and what could be done with them as final girls. You know what I mean? In Scream 7.
Yeah, and that's another difference why, going back to the conversation you were having with the bros from the Nightmare of Halloween, is like, all humans are the same and different at the same time. And maybe some people's the one admit it, but LGBT people, they have another sensibility.
I know that you're a Scream 2 person, and I'm also a Scream 2 and 3 person. If I had to rank Kevin's scripts, just in terms of the writing itself, I would rank them 1, 4, 2. But that's only because if we're looking at the dialogue and the message, right? I think a lot of Scream 2's strength comes from the trio, and it comes from Wes Craven as a director. I think it's those two things that really make the power of Scream 2. I think that the script for Scream 2, because there's so much action in Scream 2 and so much set piece and so much suspense that Wes builds with just the action and the staging and that is kind of Scream 2 to me versus Scream 1, which I think is all script. I think the script of Scream 1 is the reason for the season. And I would also say that Scream 4 is it's his writing that is what really makes Scream 4 special. It's the Scream 4 dialogue. It's the analysis of the original versus the remake and what Jill represents and like the cultural message of both like social media, but also the very meta aspect of the remake getting 15 minutes of fame, thinking that the original is dead, and the original coming back and saying, don't fuck with the original, and having that message of the trio is alive and everybody else is dead. That to me, like, along with all of the Kevin Williamson dialogue, like I think Scream 4 has some of the best dialogue in the franchise. It has some of the best messaging. It's a really special movie, and I think a lot of that comes from the writing, which I know he didn't write the entirety of Scream 4, but he wrote the bones of it, and a lot of what's there that has survived is because of him. So I think that Scream 4's script and what makes Scream 4 special is Kevin himself.
Yes, she has my favorite killer's monologue. I think that's genius. I don't know, but I don't know. I wouldn't be able to rank it like to put 2 or 4, like which one it's better, because there's such different things. 2 is a continuation of the character of 1. It goes more to the emotional, to the emotions, to the Sydney arc. And Scream 4, it's more about what's going on in the world at the time, and it was actually ahead of its time. So I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but it's just what I wouldn't be able to write.
And maybe I'm not being fair to Scream 2 because like the best thing about Scream 2, in my opinion, is Gail Weathers and like her kind of evolution from bad to good. And that is in the writing. That's the script. So maybe I'm being, maybe I'm being too hard on Scream 2 here. Even like the opening of Scream 2, the commentary on race and like the creativity to put them in an actual movie theater and her being killed in the theater with all of the costumes, like it's that's above and beyond. So maybe I was wrong. Maybe Scream 2 is above Scream 4. But
2 things can be true at the same time.
And I guess like before we do the speed round, let's wrap up here. Any final words about Kevin before we get to see him direct the hell out of Scream 7 and kind of start a new era of the franchise, a new era in terms of like, we don't know what he's going to be like as a director, how he's going to be a storyteller behind the camera versus just on the page. Any final thoughts here on Kevin?
I know that many people, there's I don't know what the exact phrase is in Hollywood, like people judge you according to your last success, your last hit. I think that even though maybe you don't like Scream 7 or maybe it doesn't do good or the critics don't like it, let's appreciate everything that he has done before because he gave us a lot. And again, if you're from the LGBT community, like appreciate that we have a representation, someone that in his own way was able to give us representation. Let's appreciate everything that he has done.
Well, so as my good friend Taylor Swift recently said in a song called Elizabeth Taylor, you're only as hot as your last hit, baby. So anyways, I think that's what you were saying in different words. And I think that's what some people are in bad faith using, teaching Mrs. Tingle. Well, he's only ever directed this other movie, so how can he be a good fit for Scream if this is the only movie he made? And I say, buzz off, troll. But okay, so Kevin, we love you. Thank you so much for everything that you've given us. I mean, like I say that so kind of casually, but the weight of what Kevin Williamson has given people like me, people who listen to the show, people who love Scream, it's immeasurable, with the Scream movies themselves, 1, 2, and 4. And then, but also all of the tentacles that go along with Scream. H2O, I know what you did last summer, The Faculty, I am just so grateful for everything that he's given us. And I can't wait to see the new iteration, Kevin Williamson 2.0, for lack of a better phrase, as a director of Scream, as opposed to just a writer. So Kevin, thank you for everything. So, okay, let's go now to the speed round. So you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Sydney, Gail, or Ty?
Sydney.
Sam or Tara?
Sam.
Dewey or Chad?
Dewey.
Okay. Favorite movie buff across the franchise?
Kirby.
Okay. Favorite killer?
Jill.
Favorite opening and favorite finale?
Okay, I'm gonna cheat here. So my favorite opening is Scream 2. It's a tie. My favorite finale is Scream 2 and Scream 3.
I approve.
What I like about the most about Scream 2's finale is that it's so structured. It's set in a theater. And what I really love about Scream 3 is that it's so personal. It's 2 different things.
Favorite scene in any of the movies?
I think I'm going to stick with the one that I said the first time that I was in the podcast, which was the Scream 2 when Sydney says, "You can talk to Cotton, he's the real hero here," and then the music plays, and she said, and it's a perfect sound to end the movie.
Favorite kill or death?
You know what? Because it's very emotional. The one that it's been sticking on my mind lately, Judy and her son, Wes.
Awesome. What is your favorite thing about Scream?
Kevin. I mean, yeah, he get. I mean, people. I love Wes Craven. I've been watching a lot of his movies. I actually watch People Under the Stairs lately, recently. And I realized if we didn't have the first script, we wouldn't have the franchise. And so I love Kevin, his script, and the way that he creates characters.
Beautiful. So, what is your favorite thing or favorite memory about the podcast as somebody who's been around for a long time?
I think the first, I don't know if it was the first time, but see, one time that I was able to talk about Urban Legend, which is
Mhm.
one of my favorite slashers after Scream. So I don't know. I remember telling you that I was so nervous, and you told me that it didn't feel like that at all.
No, you did great on that. That was a good episode.
Yeah, I really love that one.
I did an episode in May with our friend Sam. He picked like maybe 5 or 6 songs and we went through them and talked about them. Songs from any of the Scream movies. So similarly, Wani here has picked a couple of songs and we're going to talk about them as well. So Wani, first of all, what are your thoughts on the music in Scream just in general? How do you think Scream approaches the pop culture with the music selections and do you see a difference between like the Craven films versus the Radio Silence films?
You know what I found in common is that they're not just speaking just what's on the moment. I noticed that they're very particular about the songs that they select, especially for specific parts of the films. There are sometimes they're just like feeling just the background, but there's sometimes that I realize that they are part of the narrative, like they're helping to tell the story. Like when you get the Youth of America on the first one, it's like a prelude of what's going to happen. Like Save a Prayer for the Youth of America. Then it says You're All Dead. I realized also in Scream 6 in my head when it's just before we see Sam with the psychologist and the lyrics are like, it says, let it begin, push it away, but it's pulling me in, try to pretend I'm not aware where I'm doing it again. I know the signs, I see the pattern. It's just like it gives again, it's a prelude of what's going to happen and the internal fight that Sam has with the killer instinct.
Mhm.
So I found it that's something that followed through the whole 6 films. And I don't know if this is because I'm more aware now, but the only time what I felt like they were like going to what was trending at the moment was on Scream 6 with Demi Lovato.
Yeah.
But even then, I think it feels like the song was written for the film. It didn't feel like a random selection.
Well, no, so Still Alive was in fact written for Scream 6. So I think it works and like I mean, it's a fun song and like, it's a bop. Even though like it's not as sophisticated or as clever or as artful, I guess, as the other closing credit songs. I think like in my opinion, it's probably my least favorite song that's featured in any of the credits, and I kind of find it cheeky and funny in a way because like everyone in the film, all of the main characters are literally still alive. I don't think that's what Radio Silence was intending, but that's what I take away from it, which is like, oh, we're telling on ourselves. And Sam, Tara, Mindy, Chad, Gail, Danny, and Kirby are all still alive, and Sydney Prescott, of course. So it's just like, girl, who did you kill in this movie besides the killers, besides the Ghostface killers? So literally 5 Ghostface killers. So you have the guy in the fridge, you have Jason, and then you have the Bailey family. Then there's like a couple of people who are like nameless, faceless people from the bodega. We don't even get to see Gail's boyfriend really. So it's just like, who did you kill? Like, who did you kill in this movie besides Annika? So, anyways,
On that movie, I think that the better song of that soundtrack, it's in my head, in my opinion. That was would have been a better lead single.
that's actually really interesting because I never really made that connection before. I've always, the song is nice, it's whatever, but I never made the connection with Sam's character before. So I like it. I like it in my head. It's like, I get it. So you mentioned Youth of America. And for me, I have always found the placement of that to be so specific as they're going into the party, right? They're going into the finale. And like, all the while Wes Craven's making a commentary about the Youth of America. I don't think it's as hits you over the head with it, like in my head is, right? Like, in terms of the commentary, but like it's still part of the mosaic. It's part of the picture that Wes is painting for everybody is what is going on with these young people, right? And what's causing young people to do these horrific acts. So so I like that choice a lot. So what are your thoughts on Youth of America?
No, I really love that song. And it's like, it's funny how if you see the soundtrack, that's the first song of the soundtrack on the track list. I like it's a great song for an opener in an album, but it's also the placement of the movie. It's perfect as well. And it's actually for being like a more rock hard song, it's really catchy.
I like it too. Again, I think it's so perfectly put in the movie, like right as they're going into the party, right when the party's beginning. It gives the vibe of the party so well. So I really like that. On your list, you also have Whisper to a Scream, which of course is the, birds fly at the end of the movie over the credits. So why don't you tell me a little bit about Whisper to a Scream?
I think well, it's a cover that song, so I really like the version that we got because the original one it's more 80s, more nostalgic, more dramatic. But the way that they did it here, I like that it's more upbeat and it shows like the tone, like it's perfect for the tone of the movie because it's kind of nostalgic and it's upbeat and it's like kind of like a happy ending song in a way, not really, but it's nice that they did it with female vocals because it's like it's represented Sydney in a way. Like it started with a whisper and it finished with a scream. So I really like that one. And it just for me, it set the tone for the credits. That's the song that is playing when they showing the faces of each actor. And I really enjoy that one. So that every time that I see Scream, I have to wait until that song ends.
Well, so a song that you don't have on this list, which is in my mind, when I think of Scream and the tone of the original trilogy, I think of Red Right Hand. I think that kind of encapsulates all three original films. So I don't know, it's just the vibe of all of them. I think that these songs, even though they weren't written for the film, they still make up the films in the original trilogy's tone in a way.
Yeah, I didn't put it on the list because I think it's
It's
been done
obvious.
to
Yeah.
death. Yeah. Yeah, and there's another one. So there's still selections. There's another one. I didn't put it on the list. Like it's called Sour by Alice Cooper, but it's another version. I don't know who did the song selection, but they were really clever and they're not songs that, as you said, that they were not written for screen, but they took the time to find songs that fit the narrative of the movie. And yes, that song that you mentioned, that's also a good one. And it's good that it's repeated in the whole three movies because it's the buy of the trilogy. I think it comes back again on 5 and 6, right?
Yeah.
Four is the other one the only one that doesn't have it, I think.
Right. So, well, and I hope that 7 and 8 and 9 continue on with it because it's so integral to like the identity of the franchise. So you also have for Scream 2, I see you have Your Lucky Day in Hell and She Said. And so that those are two interesting songs because it's the first time we see Sydney and the last time we see Sydney. And She Said is talked about a lot when it comes to like the Scream
Yeah.
discourse. But Lucky Day in Hell, it's never been brought up on this podcast before. And I love that song. I think it fits the mood of college life, of a small town, of Sydney kind of like as like she's older, she's wiser, she's gone through it a bit, I think it fits her tone really well. So what are your thoughts on
Another Bay opener is like a setup of what's going to happen. And I really like the line. I know that this song, it wasn't for this movie. It was in another movie previously. It was also a college setting. And I like the line that says, and no one will know my name until it's in stone. It's like people sometimes get famous when they're dead. And I find it like weird, like we are actually in a movie where people are getting killed and people are getting fame for the murderers. For example, Gail Weller is getting famous because of everything that happened. So I found that line that was really interesting. The ironic tone of the song, like the chorus, it sounds like romantic, but it's like what they're saying, it's so tragic. So it's a great opener, I think.
Well, so tell me about She Said, because She Said's kind of controversial in Scream world, right? Where some people think that it's too upbeat for the ending of Scream 2. I've always thought it fits. I don't know.
Well, if you read the lyrics, it's kind of nostalgic. I think it's written about someone, like the original song is written about someone that it's older, like it's just they are looking back to their younger days. But I think that the lyric, it says, she said the time is unfair to a woman her age. You can apply that to Sydney, that for being that young, everything that's happened to her already. And then it says, and now that wisdom has come and everything else is fades. And then it says only the strong shall survive. And I'm feeling quite weak. Like you can like apply that to Sydney. So it is. I think it's more bittersweet than upbeat. Like the sound of the song, it's upbeat, but if you go to the lyrics, it's kind of bittersweet, nostalgic. Scream has like some parts where they capture perfect moments with the song and the scene, and that I think that's one of the flawless moments of Scream.
Yeah, no, I agree. I completely agree. So from what I see here, I don't see any Scream 3 songs, right?
Yeah, sorry.
This recording has ended and will never see the light of day. I'm burying it. I'm just teasing.
What song do you like from?
I love the song "Automatic" by American Pearl. I love so it's used in the credits, and it's used in some of like there's like this behind the scenes featurette that it's used over, and it's just fun, and the rock and roll aspect of it really fits Scream 3, and it's like fast, fun energy, and it just like to me that is what Scream 3 is. And I just like the song. And like I just have like such like nostalgic memories of watching Neve Campbell. She kind of like, on set kind of laughing to and while the song plays. I don't know. I'm just teasing. So Scream 4 has a lot of bops, and you have several here listed. I was so happy to see some of them. So I have Something to Die For. How can we not love that song?
That song, it's amazing. Like every time, it's so funny because every time that you see it, I see Scream 4 and the opening ends with the death Jenny, and it's like, and then it goes on, and you're like, yeah, like you can't help like rocking to that song. And the lyrics are, you can apply it to Jill, you can apply it to Sydney, and I think that maybe I'm reading too much into the lyrics, but there's a part of the song that I think applies to Jill. At the beginning of the song, they're working another night tonight, not paying attention to their job, or like not paying attention when people are screaming their name. I think it's like describe Jill as doesn't want this normal life, a mundane life. So I think that applies to it. And the chorus, I think, applies to Sydney and to both of them in two different perspectives. Jill is willing to die to fulfill this dream, and Sydney is willing to die to save people that she loves.
Well, and don't say goodbye, just leave an open door. We left an open door in Scream 3. I love that is like, so the first time we see her, Sydney gets out of the car. The line is like, whenever we first literally see her on screen is, don't say goodbye, just leave an open door, which is the last time we saw her was the open door, the famous ending from Scream 3. I think it's a beautiful pick. And like, Scream 4 has a different tone than the original trilogy. It's a strikingly different tone. And I think that this song does a lot to establish the new tone and really commit to the new tone that maybe was unclear in the opening. So I really, really like Something to Die For. I listen to it every once in a while just on its own. So whenever I'm getting tired of Taylor Swift, which is never. Also, you have Yeah, Yeah, Yeah. What part of the movie is that from? I know it from the soundtrack, but
Kirby and Jill call Olivia, and it's the ringtone. My guess is that that song is so good that they needed to put it in the film somehow, because it doesn't say anything like, it's just a great song.
Well, so one of my favorite songs from Scream 4 that nobody talks about, I mean, I love Bad Karma. I love Something to Die For. There's so many great songs in Scream 4, but I also like Make My Body Go in the Stabathon, where we first see Gail and we see the Stabathon. It says, again, it makes the Stabathon feel teenage. It makes it feel sexy. It makes it feel exactly the right tone that the Sabathon's going for. So, it's so interesting how the setting of the Sabathon is impacted by just that song choice of Make My Bodies. We have Scream 5. Wait, so Turn to Hate. What is Turn to Hate? It's Orville Peck. That's the guy with like the mask, right?
Yeah.
He's on RuPaul. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, he's a country singer. And I found it really interesting that LGBT representation in the music as well. And it's funny, so the placement of this song, it's the bar scene, but they're like Amber is giving all this position dialogue, like telling what happened. And so the lyrics, I tried to find I found the lyrics and I wasn't able to relate it to the scene, but then I realized, so it says keeping the track of everything we lose. Something is smaller now because I've seen it all before. I don't know if you remember, but there's a deleted scene where Joey appears for the first time on the bar. And I think they thought of that song for that woman, and then they left it anyway, and it didn't make any sense because it talks about someone like being sad and like that had lost so many in his lifetime. So I think, and it doesn't make any sense with just to put the background on that scene. But if you add on the deleted scene, you see that you already see Dewey drinking and he falls from his chair. So that's my theory that song was originally intended for that moment.
So it's so annoying when things get deleted.
But I think that the reason why is that they didn't want to show like the first time that we see Dewey, they didn't want to show him that tragic. So yeah. I think that's why they decided to delete it.
No, I agree. I think that you're absolutely right. I'm glad that we got the movie we got where we don't see Dewey like that, because they would have included that scene in Scream 5. I know it sounds so silly because it's only like a 30-second scene, but it would have set the tone and put everyone in such a sour mood that's how they are choosing to characterize him. Whereas how it is in the movie now, his alcoholism is a little bit more subtle, and we don't see him actively like stumbling, falling, getting into fistfights as the first time we see him as like a grizzled drunk. I think that was a smart choice by them to avoid some backlash there. So you have Fall Out of Love, which is a really great song. I love it as part of the ending credits. I will say, though, the one that's in the movie is a duet. I actually like the original, with just one voice. I think it's 10 times better.
I actually like the one that we got in the movie better. I don't know. I was reading the lyrics the other day when I was preparing for this, and it's such a, like, paying attention to the lyrics made me love the song more, because sometimes you just love a song because of the sound. You don't really care about the lyrics. The images that I got when I was listening to the lyrics, it's like being nostalgic and being drunk in a good way. That the song feels like having drinks with someone you haven't seen in a long time and getting nostalgic about the past, seeing against your old friends and feeling nostalgic about it. And I think that's the perfect song. And the way that it's played on the credits, it's also.
Next up, you had October Passed Me By, Girl in Red.
So when Sam has the fight with Tara, and it's just a great song. I mean, this is the first song that I knew before the movie came out. So I heard about that artist, like she's an indie artist, and I thought that song existed already. It wasn't for the movie. But it just captures the perfect October vibe, the fall in New York City. So that's why I got it.
So, in some ways, I feel like Radio Silence did a really good job of picking the songs for their movies in terms of finding thematic things to loop in with the character choices. A part of me thinks they spent too much time doing that and not enough time with the actual movie itself. They spent more time picking out the music than they did making the movie, which, it is what it is. Anyways, so to close out, you told me that your favorite Taylor Swift song is New Romantics. And this is a song that I actually recently fell in love with on vacation. And the reason why I fell in love with it was because it's a very millennial song, in my opinion. Like the messaging of it, like the being so tired of everything, dancing away our problems and disassociating, just very much like a millennial experience. It's very Scream 4. So I guess why is New Romantics one of your favorite Taylor Swift songs?
I don't know. I like the lyrics. I know that maybe it's a little bit more superficial what she's talking about, but there's a line that it says, because baby, I could be a castle from all the bricks that you can throw at me. And I think you can relate to that. I think she's maybe talking about more about social media and what the haters. It comes from the 1999 bonus track. I could be sad at home and thinking about everything that you're throwing on me, but I can build myself stronger. And I think that's a powerful line. I really like that.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad. I like that whenever you told me that was one of your favorite songs, I was like, that fit. Wani, this has been really wonderful. Thank you again so much for coming on. Remind everybody where they can find you online.
Yes, on Instagram, that's the one that I use the most, at Juani Carrillo. And then YouTube, you can watch my videos, and Spotify, stream my music. It's Juani Carrillo all around.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Wani.
All copyrighted material used or referenced in this show belong to their rightful owners and made possible by the Fair Use Act.
And number 3, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
Get another beer, you want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back!
Dear God, Ryan,